All right, guys, what is up? We're doing a Rule Zero session today on my channel. Welcome. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe. Topic today was a highly requested one. I posted on my community tab to you guys, asking you for some feedback for topics for the Saturday. And this has come up a few times, basically maintaining genuine desire in a long-term relationship / marriage. So yeah, that's today's topic. Joined today with Aaron. He's got to leave maybe about 30 minutes. Rhinestone, Paul, and of course, Rollo Tomas. We might have one or two others join us on the way through. Welcome, gentlemen.
Oh, I'm muted. Hey.
Hello.
Hello.
We're all so polite. We're all scrambling to unmute.
Well,
Paul, haven't seen you since the convention, man. How's things? Sitting there in your car. You're taking Rich's gimmick.
Yeah.
Paul.
Oh, yeah. That's, I said I was in my R8. I mean, Jeep.
Paul's in his Jeep R8.
My
All right.
As
Jeep.
long as it's not a Toyota Tacoma with
Lease.
rational mail in the back seat, we're all good, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. I'm actually at a home inspection right now. I have a transactional real estate team that makes me some money. Occasionally, I do stuff with it. But, you know,
Very good. Very
so
good.
yeah.
So I want to throw opening questions at you guys to kind of get the ball rolling on this. And the chat's open for members, or if you want to drop super chat questions, you know, we'll throw them up on the screen and address them as they come through. If you're watching this anywhere on the internets, like on Facebook or Twitter, head over to YouTube. It just helps me out a ton with the algorithms as we build this out. Let me just drop a link in the chat. That's it there if you're watching it elsewhere. Rollo, you've been married forever, dude. You're like 23, 24 years.
24.
Let me ask you a question, because I mean, you've seen a lot of marriages come and go in that time, I'm sure. But do you, like, the whole tropes around happy wife, happy life, and like you see most guys bending the knee to their wives and putting them first and making themselves less and all that. How smart of an idea is that for guys to enter the frame of a long-term relationship? We'll just call it an LTR, because LTR marriage, whatever, it's the same thing. It's just you have a marriage contract.
Well, I mean, and I think that's probably the first order of clarification here. Is a lot of guys think that, well, they either think that I'm like pro-marriage or I'm too anti-marriage, and it's like I am anti-marriage in the sense that the way we do it now is like fatally flawed. And I know that, and I think this is sort of a sign of the times. It's something that's sort of that it's been sort of percolating, I think, since like the mid 70s, because right after the sexual revolution, that's when you see like this spike in divorces, because no fault divorce came about. And that's when you see things like, you know, the child custody laws start favoring, well, they always favored women, but they even more so like over the top, like grossly, you know, favoring women, and essentially removing men's authority in the marriage and replacing it with nothing but a lot of responsibility. I've just been writing about this in book 4. And I think that now in 2020, I mean, we're looking at almost, well, actually about 55 years of redevelopment and this sort of paradigm shift from what used to be a good institution. It used to be a good way of forming families, and you know, the basis of society is strong families. Well, because of the gender shift and everything that's been going on, it's I think over the course of 50 years, it's really kind of decayed into what it is today. So yes, before we start talking about anything today, I am 100% aware of all the risks and everything else that's involved. So let's just clarify that here from the beginning. But I would say this is that I think that if you are going to engage yourself in a long-term relationship, and I think we're trying to figure out what that is or what that's going to be going forward, because right now we have factionalized so many things, particularly with gender, but also with politics and everything else that's going on right now. But in our wheelhouse, gender is the thing, and we've sort of atomized and separated men into, you know, different sides of the playground. Like, you men go over there and you women go over there, and never the two shall meet unless they want to have sex, and that's about it. And that doesn't do much for fertility rates, and that doesn't do much for family formation. And so I think that there needs to be some, I think we're still trying to figure this out right now. But I think that if you are going to engage yourself in a long-term relationship or any kind of monogamy in the future, you owe it to yourself to understand or be educated about it, and also understand red pill awareness and understand women's nature, understand your own nature. We have more access to information today than ever before. You've got at least 20 years of, so let's say research and development in red pill circles for, like I said, since maybe like 2000, 2001, something like that, up to where we are right now. And I think as a result of that, a lot of people focus on the game aspects of the red pill, when in fact there's so much more to it. And part of that is maintaining as best you can, maintaining a sense of value and maintaining a sense of authority, some kind of authority, as much as you can from within a monogamous relationship. I know that there are, in some countries, and maybe this is Canada as well, I'm not really sure, but I know that in some countries that common law marriage is just as legally binding as, like, say, a regular marriage, or to some extent provides legal protections or whatever for women in those situations. And honestly, I think a lot of this has to do with really kind of retaining an old order responsibility for men, like, say, like alimony or something, which really kind of came up out of like the Depression era stuff. Like, men couldn't just leave women, high and dry with kids, and they would owe them money, kind of thing. Well, that will keep, but we won't keep the authority that used to be, sort of part of that package as well. So we've changed things up. We've changed up not only the legal dynamics in marriage and in long-term relationships, but we also changed the kind of power dynamics, I guess, within those relationships. And if you hear women tell it, they'll say, well, it's great, right? Because we're egalitarian, we're equal partners. But that's not how marriages work, and that's not how long-term relationships work. There needs to be some sort of power dynamic where women can look up to a man. They're not looking for a guy who is their equal. They're looking for a guy who is their better.
Does your wife see you guys as equals?
No, not at all. Not even from day one. Not even from when we were dating. She expected me to be the man, right? I told this story before. It's like when we were dating, I had my truck and she had her car. And whenever we were going on a date or we were going somewhere and we were driving her car, she would hand me the keys. Say, you're driving. Mm-hmm. And that was, I sort of have used that. I've used that illustration a lot, but that was my first indication that she wanted somebody who was in control, who was going to drive the family, was going to drive the marriage, right? She expected that. She comes from a fairly traditional family. Her father, my father-in-law, who I get along with great. Now I get along with great. Very much an alpha male, very much the guy that was sort of the patriarch of the family, still is to this day. And she expected me to, at least in some way, be the patriarch, be the guy who is and I hate to use that term now because it means something else to trad cons, but that's, in a nutshell, that's what it is. She expected me to drive the car. She expected me to drive the relationship and the marriage, and to be in control of it, and to be the focus and the direction of it. Another example I use is that when I decided to take a job at a particular liquor company that wanted to relocate to Orlando, I sat her down at we went out and had sushi one night, and I said, we're going to move to Orlando because there's this great job for me, and we're going to relocate. And her response wasn't, well, what about my friends? What about my family? What about my career here? What about this here? What about that here? It wasn't that. The first thing out of her mouth was, you're my husband. I go where you go. Mm-hmm. When are we leaving? When do I need sweetness, kind of thing, right? And so I think a lot of people get like kind of freaked out about that. And I think like if you were to ask like certain guys about that, they would say, well, oh, how did you do that? It's like, I didn't do that. That's just how our relationships work, right? That's just how we are. Right? I'm the one who I have headship of this family. Mm-hmm. You ask women, if you ask feminists, if you ask even women who claim not to be feminists, they'll be like, oh, you must have her really on a tight leash, right? Or you must really have her under your thumb. I'm like, no, I don't have her under my thumb. She's where she wants to be. This is how we do it. And this is how we've always done it. So, and I'm looking at I see the chat there. I'll talk about Dread Game here in just a little bit, but I know this topic will come up, so I'm just going to say it right now. I don't game my wife. And I of course the thumbnail there was a little bit of clickbait, I guess, but I don't game my wife. I don't have to game my wife because this is just how we are. This is just how I am. And my default is to whatever is sort of like the red pill default when it comes to, any kind of decision making that happens in the family. Said this also is that I think I can count on the fingers of one hand how many times we've ever had a real fight, and any of those fights have never lasted more than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Aaron's only here for like the first 30 minutes of the show, so I wanted to throw this at him as well. So you've been in LTR for a while. What's your strategy, your best tips to guys as far as maintaining long-term genuine burning desire in Captain Capitalism?
It's from Indiana Jones. Choose wisely. That would be. Yeah, it kind of alluding what Roll says. A lot of this is kind of pre-selection, where your personality, at least if you're intellectually honest with yourself, like I don't tolerate or brook insubordination. Not like this. I run a military camp, but I am the undisputed leader, and by God, get out of my way, because I'm going this way, and you're either going to be on board or you're going to get out of the way. So my personality is very type A and very bulldog, and I don't know women would be able to tolerate me long enough if they had any kind of inkling that, oh, I'm head of household, or we're going to co-lead and co-parent. Those gals self-selected themselves out. Yeah. So and it's not coincidental that the gal that I've had for 15 years almost now, that she was a student of mine in my ballroom dance class. Not only teacher student, but men lead in dancing and women follow. And you could just tell personality wise, night and day. You get some yappy wife and like she's fighting you, and it's like, I'm the dance instructor. What do you mean you think? You don't think, you obey. Do what I freaking tell you. And then other gals would understand, oh, I have to follow. There's a role here. It's not necessarily even inferior. It's just I follow, he leads, two separate skills. So that's how it works. You pick the right gal, and then it works because you're on the same page. And then attraction then is just a matter of staying in physical shape. So it's not been a chore. It's not been a pain in the ass or anything like that. But I have dated gals where she could be the hottest thing ever, but if she's constantly fighting you, you'll lose any physical attraction, and you're like, yeah, no, this is over. So that's the number one thing is choose wisely. Choosing wisely.
Yes. Let me throw the super chat up because it came in on Dread Game. Who wants to hit on that? Is Dread Game a must in an LTR, and how do bets use it?
Sorry. Okay. Mind if I jump in on that one? All right. Yeah. So I got a little different take on Dread, and we have lots been talked about it. Want to just throw on a couple of like endorsements here, whatever. All right. So if you guys are in an LTR, wanting to be in an LTR, if you haven't read Rollo's first book, you need to read Rollo's first book like 2 or 3 times, and get on Ryan's channel and binge watch some of these videos. Ryan does so much stuff on LTR game. You just did that thing with Anthel K. Breaking down
the Married Man Sex Life Primer.
Yeah, this stuff is awesome. This is like foundational. So if you guys don't have this foundation, the foundation is right there for you to get. So now into Dread Game. My take on Dread a little different, because I have what I call positive and negative dread. All right. So let me talk about positive dread. So positive dread is most of the time she should be in your frame, and she should see you as her sexual best. Everything is going good. So when you create a good experience for her, or for you guys together, or you do something for her, it's not a placate to her or putting her on a pedestal or trying to earn her affection. What happens is, if you do something, let's say just surprise, I made dinner tonight, whatever, you know what I mean? Something like that. She's in your frame and sees you as better than her, which from a hypergamous perspective, she needs to see that. She'll be happy that you did things, but some part of her is going to go, man, I really need to step my game up. You know what I mean? Some part of her will get a little bit of anxiety and go, well, God, he's so good to me. He planned this great evening for us. I'm going to do more. Like, I have to do more for him. And so she'll get in a competition, unless she's a really entitled person. So this is where vetting is important. Some women are just too entitled. They think that they're owed everything, and they're not gonna respond to this. I don't recommend those for LTRs. It's a pain in the butt. But if she's doesn't have this strong sense of entitlement, she'll get in a competition with you in terms of doing stuff for you because she's worried about losing you or worried about not being enough for you. So she is trying to qualify to you and make you happy. And so this is where I always let her win that competition. A little bit of stuff, we're kind of doing stuff for each other. I'm not keeping score or anything, but I always let her do a little bit more for me than what I do for her, because her attraction and draw is built a lot from what she does for me, not from the things that I do for her. You know, so that's her investment. Her investment's built from those actions and those things that she does to qualify to me and to do things for me. So that's positive dread.
That's the 2/3 rule, basically, is what.
Yeah. Right.
It's the 2/3 rule.
Yeah, and then you have negative dread. Now, negative dread is what we commonly know as dread. When you have to institute negative dread, she is challenging your frame or starting to come out of your frame. So that shouldn't be most of the time. If you're running your relationship with negative dread most of the time, it's kind of miserable, and you're in for a kind of a toxic, tumultuous, not really a good thing. And you're not gonna have a good time with that. Because that means she's constantly trying to challenge your frame, and now you have to institute in a negative way some sort of dread that would make her have a fear of losing you. That's not sustainable. If you have to do that constantly, eventually that's going to create an emotional rift and a lot of bad feelings and stuff, and she's just going to go it's going to break that relationship up. Even if she sees you as her best, she'll have so much anxiety that she can't keep it together with you. So that's not good if you run it like that all the time. But it is a necessary skill set to have. I mean, if she's being kind of, bitchy, denying you sex, whatever, any of these weird things that these women will do, the whole grab your gym bag and go someplace, or, hey, I'm going out with the boys instead, that kind of stuff, where she goes, oh, okay, like shit, this guy's got sexual market value, he's desirable, and I better step my game up. Or you start, a lot of the negative dread happens just from kind of a soft next or ignoring her, just, okay, it's really simple. She's not giving me the response I want. I put less time and energy into her. When I pull away and put less time and energy into her, eventually she starts to feel that void, and she wants to start qualifying for me. At least that's how it should work. So that's how negative dread works. And they're both really powerful and necessary tools, I think. But,
yeah. Ryan, can you do like the red pill sidebar definition of what dread is for guys that are newer?
Yeah, dread. Think of alpha and behavior as desire versus attraction, or dopamine versus oxytocin. Basically, sexy times versus comfortable times. And Paul's worded it with like different words than I would use, but it's the same. It's exactly right. And I'm actually surprised how condensed you were able to put that whole thing. Dread, if you think of it as a comprehensive system, is done for sexually waning relationships, where the idea of just leaving her and going to find some new girl isn't your first option. Now, he has two parts. You called it positive and negative. The terms we used in the Married Red Pill were passive and active. Passive dread being what people would think of in self-improvement areas. The idea is making yourself more attractive. The active dread is the other side of it, the being less unattractive. And this is where learning how to game goes, pre-selection goes, that fear of loss, that anxiety that Paul's talking about, which a lot of guys consider anxiety with their wives to be a bad thing, not knowing that anxiety and that fear of loss is actually an aphrodisiac. Now, 100% right too, Paul. We actually had a guy in my community last week had this problem. Had all of that, those alpha type behaviors in place. Very attractive. Sex was great. All this. But he had none of that comfort to go with it. And so what happened is his girl ended up leaving him because the anxiety just became too much. So dread has a secondary purpose, and allows the guy to calibrate how much active dread, or how much alpha, for lack of a better word, or how much of that desire and the tingles and the butterflies in the stomach, how much of that you apply in your relationship versus how much comfortable things, like, am I a good dad? Do I bring her to orgasm every time? Or does she feel safe around me? And then guys kind of learn, for each girl, it's individual, but they're going to need some amount of one and some amount of the other. And usually when sexually your relationship is waning, it's because you're out of whack. And so you learn the proper proportions. And On the off chance that the girl doesn't respond to it, because they're human beings, they do what they want, it puts you in a position so that the next girl in your life, you're never going to have to go through this crap again. And that's a concept we say where it's the stay plan is the same as the go plan. So basically, you're making yourself attractive to more women, and if this woman responds, great. And this is where you're talking about with frame. If she doesn't respond, though, it doesn't become a giant covert contract and where I danced through all the hoops, why aren't you sleeping with me? It's like, no, it just means that I'm moving on to somebody else and you had your chance. And I could talk about it for hours, so I'll leave it there before I start getting rambly.
In my work, in the stuff that I've done, as far as dread is concerned, I have parallels to what Paul's talking about, which is sort of active dread and passive dread. Active dread is the ultimatum. It's the, if you don't do what I tell you to, then these things are going to happen. It's the explicate rather than demonstrate kind of version of it, where it's and Paul's right. It's unsustainable in the long term. Sometimes it's necessary. In very rare, exceptional instances, I would say it is. Passive dread, third-party dread is much more effective. So what's third-party dread or passive dread? It's usually when that woman is placed back into a position of competition. She gets competition anxiety, urgency, sexual tension. Usually that comes from when an outside party, a third party, like an outside the marriage, outside the LTR, finds you attractive in like maybe the waitress or something like that, or you're at a bar or you're at a club, or it's a sexual it's a pre-selection, or it's social proof that comes from outside, and it triggers a part of women's sort of hindbrain saying, this guy is somebody that other men want to be and other women want to bang. And when that is sort of in their face, whether it doesn't have to be like really overt. It can be just like one of her girlfriends saying, "Oh, Rollo looks pretty good these days. What is he working out more?" That kind of stuff. As long as it's something that is sort of building up social proof or pre-selection. Now, here's the trick though. Once you get into an LTR, those instances become more and more rare. So when you are you're single and you're dating and there's competition anxiety, and she's saying, well, some other girl might get this guy, or my girlfriends say he's great, or when women need sort of that third party confirmation as to whether or not you're alpha or not, and that's what women do, because hypergamy can't afford to wait for absolute 100% confirmation by itself. It has to seek third-party estimates of you as a high-quality guy, the guy that she wants to get with, the guy that other men want to be and other women want to bang. And once you get into a committed relationship, the presumption is that, forsaking all others, you're with me, I'm with you. This is our arrangement. We're exclusive. One more reason why I keep saying that guys need to date non-exclusively, spin plates until they get to be at least in their early 30s, because it perpetuates that. It maintains that. And women love that. That's what they want. They want their egos want to know that they are associated with a high value man. And it's confirmed for them, not just by the guy saying, "Hey, I'm a high value guy," but by outside parties. And when guys get into relationships, and this is a scientific proven fact, that when guys get into long-term relationships, when they get into marriages, when they have already had a child with a woman, their testosterone declines. And when they get out of that relationship, they get a divorce, they get back into the sexual marketplace, guess what happens? Their testosterone increases. So there's a physical, biological component that goes along with all of this as well. But when it comes to dread, look for those opportunities. I still am in a pretty unique position, in that I've been working for the liquor industries for quite some time. I'm working for the gaming industry for quite some time, doing promotions, doing things where I have to work with sort of the beautiful people that I actually hand select in some cases to go to, like, say, Martini Fests or whatever it is that we happen to be doing. Like, I pick my poor girls from agencies. And when I'm doing those kinds of things, what is that?
It's a tough job.
Stokes, well, what does it do? It stokes passive dread. And so there's that aspect as well. So if your wife or your girlfriend, whatever, is being reminded all the time that you are desired by other women, what is that going to prompt her to do, to perform better?
Keeps her in check. Let me just throw a couple of these super chats up, and then I got Myron, who wants to chime in on this from a different angle on the entry point. There's one here from DigiNomad that just says, ballroom dance girlfriend, Woo Capia's goat. And I'm going to throw this one at.
That is true. All true. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Women that can dance are certainly feminine and attractive for the most part. I want to throw this one at you too, Aaron. It says, does the panel agree that girls' ability to be coachable is more important than her educational background for an LTR?
You say coachable, what do you mean?
That's you and I have talked about that, and not necessarily disagree, but maybe weight the different things. Every girl, every person is going to be malleable and have an effect by your presence there. And it's been my experience that are they coachable depends on the woman, depends on how much she's interested in you, depends on how much coaching is needed. But I would agree to a certain extent, every girl is, depending on different variables. Is it more important than her educational dude? Unless as long as she has an employable background, that's all that matters. But if she's got like STEM, engineering, accounting, that's taken care of. Then the second thing, is she coachable? But it's a deal breaker. If she's in the liberal arts and has a bunch of student loan debt, then whether or not she's coachable is moot. About the only way I could see where that would change is she admits she's wrong. And it's kind of like this come to Jesus being like, oh yeah, I used to be a feminist in my party days, whatever. But I realized that was dumb. And now here's my game plan to get back into the productive world, the real world, stuff like that. But taking those, they're two separate things, but to a certain extent they are, and you want them, I wouldn't say malleable, but they're going to listen and heed and make changes for you. That's very important. But if it's a stripper and single mom with 4 different baby daddies, you're not going to. That's beyond coaching. That is cemented. That is dried. It is set. And you're not going to change that. So it all does depend on the woman.
I just wanted to come in after what. I just wanted to come in off the back of what Aaron said there to agree. I mean, in terms of coachability is one thing, but I think educational background for an LTR, in my view, it doesn't really, I don't see that as being a major factor. I mean, I've dated and I've actually been in sort of medium term, let's say, relationships with women who are very highly educated. I'd like PhD, philosophy level educated women, and also women who are hardly educated at all. And to be honest, while it's kind of nice to be able to sit around and talk about Nietzsche with a girl, it doesn't really, the net gain of that is not anything that I particularly crave, to be honest. It's either a negative gain or it's actually slightly, it's either a sort of a neutral gain, or it's actually slightly negative. Okay, it's kind of something that looks nice at first because you think, oh great, we can discuss this or we can discuss that, but when you get into the relationship, it's just the same old crap basically. And the fact that she's well educated doesn't really make any difference. It's got to be down to her nature, her personality. Is she pleasant? Is she nice to be around? All of those kinds of things.
Here's a little tip for you. Do a little search on her social media and see if she's ever used #bossgirl. Stay away from those chicks.
No boss girls.
Just to clarify what Rollo's talking about with poor girls, he's talking about poor as in pouring the drink for the dudes, not poor as in I'm broke. But Paul, before you go, I just want to throw it over to Myron because he's been waiting to chime in on something here.
Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry that I'm a little behind here. So for the guys that might not know me, Myron Gaines, I'm here in Miami, Florida, 30 years old. Just a little background on who I am and everything like that. I pretty much, as Rollo calls it, I spin plates, baby. I'm out here. I'm dealing with all kinds of different women. And before an LTR even starts, the thing I want guys to understand and really internalize is that, as you guys call it dread, I call it, pretty much she belongs to the streets unless proven otherwise. And I want all the younger guys out here, to take a more contemporary lens and understand that women in 2020 are definitely getting more action than you are, right? They're more experienced than you are from a sexual standpoint. And guys need to operate in that manner and basically go into every single relationship that you have with a girl as if she's an expendable commodity. And I say that because we live in a marketplace now where if you look at a girl's phone, it is literally going to change your perception of what's going on here. You're going to see crazy offers from sugar daddies for thousands of dollars. You're going to see offers to fly her out to foreign places on Instagram. You're going to see comments and likes out the woozah, basically you're going to see more red notifications than a communism party. You know what I'm saying? So when you see this, you need to understand that since girls have so many options, your only real way to combat that is to minimize any type of free attention. How do you do that? Well,
put some respect on my name.
You do that by not giving girls free attention, especially in the digital media age. And once girls start passing those tests, then you can start, how do I say, figuring out if she's worthy of a relationship. So I'm going to tell you guys a quick story, actually, that just happened to me last night. So
I hope you use this on dates, man. I hope you like hit the button on your phone, from the streets, you know, whatever.
Dude, I got all the soundboards always ready, man. I just reprogrammed them too, so I'm always ready, baby. But
hey, real quick, guys, I gotta get going, so I'll see you guys all later, right?
Peace. So guys, so there's this girl that I was seeing for, man, like a little over a year or so, kind of like on and off. She would do something dumb, I retract attention, whatever it may be, right? So she started hitting me up recently about a week and a half ago or whatever, right? And she wants to hang out. So I put her to the back burner because I'm dealing with other girls. So she's going to have to basically wait her turn in line. You know what I'm saying? So she said she wanted to come over. This was Friday night. And I was like, no, I got stuff to do. Or Thursday night, excuse me. I was like, no, I got stuff to do. And she was like, oh, well, I want to come. I want to come. I was like, well, whatever. So, and this girl lives about 2 hours from me. She's up by West Palm Beach. Okay. She literally, she drives, right? She drives 2 hours and comes down here, right? And I get a knock from my security guy. Hey, this girl, insert name here, is downstairs. And I'm like, all right, bring her up. So she comes up. I open up the door. She looks at me. She walks in and she basically, you know, whatever. We end up hooking up and whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is Rich always talks about genuine burning desire, right, guys? And I'll tell you guys this, even after me not responding to her and like just like doing my own thing, she drove 2 hours not knowing if she's going to be able to get inside. You know what I'm saying? And when a girl does things like that, you know what I'm saying? And then the next day she's helping me move into my studio and moving boxes with me and everything like that. A couple blocks down, putting it in her car, doing all these things and acquiescing to what I need done. That's when you start to put her through the ringer again to see if she's worthy. And I tell guys this all the time, man. The only way you're going to be able to do that, though, where you don't respond to her text or, you know, you're not thirsty or whatever, is by having other girls in place competing, man. And she knows it. When she comes over, she sees hairs all over the place, all this other stuff. She's like, yeah, I see you've been having fun. And I'm like, yep. And I just like, don't say nothing. You know what I'm saying? So, and there's other things I do too to like really get like chicks uncomfortable, as I always say. Shout out to Future. B, don't get too comfortable. And that's how you guys got to operate with chicks in 2020, man. Because quite frankly, the most attractive girls and everything like that, they don't respect regular guys. So the only way you're going to put respect on your name is by letting them know that they're replaceable just like they treat you. Because trust me, girls in 2020 treat men as expendable commodities. So that's all I want to say on that little point right there.
All right. Let's give it to Paul, and then I got a thought to chime in on. Go ahead, Paul.
So I'll kind of piggyback on what Myron's saying a little bit, which is that what he's alluding to is the fact that we're in a global sexual marketplace. So a global sexual marketplace is much different than things prior to social media. I mean, this girl is not qualifying and looking at 5 potential bachelors in her coal mining town and then making a choice based on hypergamy, right? Like she's looking at Instagram, Facebook, and a inflated view of what the world is, as well as a ton of sexual attention, not just from social media, but from society. It's acceptable, more acceptable for that attention. And promiscuity is at an all-time high, and her opportunities are at an all-time high. And so what Myron's talking about, but really when you're talking about LTR game, what is your answer to a global sexual marketplace where her hypergamous brain is overstimulated? Rollo has the answer in his first book, which is frame. Okay, rule number 1. Frame is how you combat the sexual marketplace the way it is today. If you maintain frame with her, and her subjective view of the world is going to be through what you're presenting. If you're presenting through your actions and behaviors that you're her sexual best and her best option, she'll look outwards at the global sexual marketplace, see it for the garbage and inflated BS that it is, and she'll look right back to you as being the best that she could do. And that is going to cause her to be in line and to have genuine burning desire for you and all those things that you need for an LTR to work. It is all about maintaining frame. That's how you combat some of the things that Myron here was talking about. And thing on the education aspect of it, guys who are listening, think to yourself, think about all the women you've ever met and that you know. Think about the smartest, most educated women that you know and whatever. Think about now their sexual decisions and the decisions that they've made with men. How stupid are they? Completely stupid, right? Women, by and large, make incredibly dumb, not well thought out decisions all the time. It's rare that they're making a good decision when it comes to their sexual choices. And we know this. This is why we talk about this stuff all the time. Why is that? I don't care if she has, 3 PhDs and she's got twice your IQ. Once she is making a sexual decision, or whatever relationship decision, however you want to term it, her chimpanzee brain, I call, is taking over. It's her primal hindbrain. She's not operating on her logical frontal brain. That's not, the frontal lobe is not in charge anymore. It's her primal sexual decision-making brain that's in charge. And that thing is responding to emotions, feelings, and instincts. That's not responding to, I don't know, whatever her area of expertise is, if she's a CEO someplace. So all of these women, regardless of their background, this is why their educational background isn't really that important when it comes to the relationship, because her decision-making and her sexual decision-making is going to be based on her emotional draw to you or how emotionally repelled she is to you, right? It's not going to have anything to do with necessarily how smart she is in her field. Now, vetting for intelligence for an LTR, I think, is a bit important, but it's not so much how smart is she in college or whatever. It's more, how is her decision making? Look for things like, can she delay gratification? That's a big one. A woman who is so directed by her emotions that she can't delay gratification or look for some kind of long-term end or goal or whatever, that's going to be a problem, because as soon as you guys have that fight or that argument or things she's going to start looking elsewhere, talking to an ex-boyfriend. These are things you don't want to put up with in LTR. You should never have to put up with that. And so looking for, and someone who can delay gratification is an indicator of a little bit higher than average IQ, a little bit higher intelligence. Someone who can take a little bit, women have a challenge when it comes to taking personal responsibility because of their internal wiring, but they are capable of doing it, particularly if they're in your frame. A woman who's a little bit smarter, she's going to be able to have some insight and maybe start changing her behavior and stuff. But really, again, it's all about frame. If she's in your frame, her motivation based on her emotional draw to you and her burning desire is going to be to alter and change things about herself to fit the relationship and to fit being a good match for you, to fit being a good complement to you. If she's not in your frame, she's not going to make those decisions. That's not really her intelligence or her career. That's not really going to make or break that. We also talked about being coachable. I like the term malleable better because you're not coaching her. If you put yourself in a position to be her teacher, her coach, her mentor, that's not a good thing, because where you're having to tell her and, mentor her, what you're doing is you're making her problems your problems. No, her problems are her own problems. She can look to you for support and for presence and maybe a little bit of help or a nudge in the right direction. But if you put yourself in that position, I deal with a lot of guys who do this. They make her problems their problems. Well, here's the thing with that. Women love to not take personal responsibility if given an opportunity. So if you make her problem your problem, and then she goes to execute some plan that you've given her, and she screws it up, all right, she's going to look at you as the reason it got screwed up. She's going to be mad at you or upset with you because she didn't execute something properly. Now you're in fights and arguments over nothing, over things that you shouldn't be in a fight or argument about, because she should be handling her own problems on her own. So that's just a few things to touch on.
All right. I just wanted to provide some useful, actionable skills tests that you guys can use. I think Troy needs to go next, and then Rollo is going to play the devil's advocate here. But I'm a car guy. I've always been a car guy. What Rollo was talking about earlier with driving his wife's car is something that I've always done. I mean, I've always had cars. In many cases, I've had more than one car or a couple of bikes at the same time. So I've always had my own mode of transportation. But if a chick's coming over to my place during the dating phase, okay, you're spinning plates, you're seeing, you know, what's out there, entertaining options. She's going to pull in, she's going to block your car in the garage. Might be the winter time. Your car's been sitting there all day. It's cold. I've always operated from the perspective, long before I read any books, went down the rabbit hole, just, you know, sensibly, I'm not letting a woman drive a car because I know how they drive, and I'm not putting my life at risk. So anytime that there's a mode of transportation and it's a vehicle, I'm driving it. And it was just like a straight up natural test. Oh, which car do you want to take? You know, she might say, well, you're parked behind mine, so let's take yours, right? And then if she's trying to get in the driver's seat, or she's still sitting in the driver's seat, it's like, hop in the passenger seat, I'm driving. If she protests, you've got some work to do, right? And you have to ask yourself, is it worth me doing the work to try to, you know, make sure she's in my frame, right? If she doesn't protest, if she defers to you as the dominant frame in the relationship, if she's already in the passenger seat with the car running by the time you come outside, even better, right? These are some things that you can look for earlier on when you're dating. You know, because we're talking about in this broadcast how to maintain genuine burning desire over a long-term basis. You really have to kind of start from the early on point. Ryan, I want to hear some of your tips, like, you know, before we get to the end of this, when it comes to you're already in a long-term relationship and you've realized that you've lost frame. Troy, I think you're up. You wanted to go next.
Yeah, I just wanted to dovetail off, I suppose, a little bit of what Myron was saying, and also Paul, in the sense that one of the aspects of this, in my experience, has been, we're talking about LTRs here and then possibly going into marriage. But one thing that you can do to maintain desire for longer than I think many guys do is to keep the courting phase, if you want to be old-fashioned about it, as long as possible. So, for example, I've been dating a girl now for over 2 years, and we don't live together. We see each other sometimes just once a week, maybe a couple of times a week. We have very separate activities. And so spinning plates is yes, that's one thing, but you don't even necessarily need to be spinning plates. Keeping your lives relatively separate for as long a period as possible really helps, in my experience, to maintain genuine desire in a relationship. Because I think the thing that is really tricky, I think the thing we all struggle with, is how to maintain desire once domesticity comes into the equation. Because once you are living in the flat together, the apartment together, the house together, you're in IKEA, you know, you're choosing new curtains together, all that kind of thing, the sex and that natural desire very quickly starts to go out the window. But one way, depending on what you want and what your life setup is, you'd be surprised how long you can keep it going where you guys aren't anywhere near to that domesticity. Now, I will, however, say that you can't keep it going on in perpetuity, because every woman is at some point going to say, you know, listen, what's happening? Where are we going? Blah, blah, blah. And they're going to push towards a more stable domestic setup. But as the guy, you can certainly resist that. And you can certainly resist that, in my experience, for quite a considerable period of time. And I sometimes think that guys make the mistake of getting into a relationship and allowing themselves to get locked down far too quickly, allowing themselves to get into a domestic situation or a sort of semi-living together situation far too quickly. And then they're surprised when it all fizzles out. It all fizzles out. A book that's really, really good on this is Practical Female Psychology by, it says Joseph South here, and I think Franco as well. Really, really interesting book about what's called the betaization curve, which is, I'm sure many people have heard of this, but it's the process that happens when you're living with a woman, when you're cohabiting with a woman, and she will basically seek to soften the rough edges. Rollo referred to this before about the way in which testosterone drops when you two are living together, and women will, not push this, but subconsciously, her drive is towards domesticity. Her drive is towards stability. The male drive is in the opposite direction. The male drive is to chaos, to wildness, to going out and doing your own thing. So the sooner that you fall into that female frame, then the more likely it is that your testosterone is going to drop, your attractiveness to her is going to drop, and things are going to start to go asunder. So, in short, the message is, keep the courting phase as long as possible. Resist the domesticity for as long as you possibly can. At some point, you're going to have to sort of compromise on that if you want to stay with her, but you can really keep it going for a lot longer than you think.
Quick point after Troy, because this is like literally perfect setup. Thank you so much, Troy. I appreciate it. I did a show a couple weeks ago, and I said 5 things you have to have before you even think of an LTR, because I know men, we're tangible creatures. We like to have examples. We need to have like some kind of like rules in place. So this is kind of like a loose guide for guys out there, because like a lot of guys wonder, well, when, because the reality is this, I'm going to keep it 100. A lot of guys want a girlfriend. They learn game to get a girlfriend. They don't necessarily want to spin plates. They don't want to get out there and be a womanizer. They don't want to get out there and date a lot of girls. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. I mean, guys, like to finish the story, after that, so that girl came to help me out move. I told her, you got to leave now, because I had another girl that I was dealing with that's also, you know, on the better end. She's actually right behind me, if you guys see right there, for people that want receipts. But anyway, the point is this. So this girl's here now, and the other one I sent her back home. And the thing I want to say is this. The 5 things you need in place. Number 1, you need to be in shape, okay? Because, and I'm going to explain why this is all important here in a second. Number 1, you need to be in shape. Number 2, I personally think if you live in the West, you need to make at least $100,000 a year, United States namely, okay? Next, you need to have 6 months of expenditures, like living expenses, saved, right? Next, you need to be at least 35 years old. And then lastly, a lay count of 50. And I know people in here, oh, what? You need to have a lay count of 50. And the reason why I say that is because, quite frankly, guys, to keep it a buck with you, you take an average 21-year-old woman and an average 21-year-old guy, that woman is going to run circles around you sexually. You look at a majority of the virgins right now, they're men, not women. So I say that to say this. If you're not sexually experienced with women and you don't know how to deal with them, you don't know how to read warning signs, you don't know how to read certain behaviors, the passive-aggressive attitudes that they display, because a lot of guys are clueless, what's going to happen is she's going to take you to the cleaners because you're not going to know the better. And then on top of that, women, I always say it, are purity dealers. Their ability to lock down a high-value guy is contingent upon their ability to sell you purity. And they fundamentally understand that if you know that they have a promiscuous past, you're not going to lock them down. Just like Rollo always says, men have natural, right, repulsion to promiscuous women. So women knowing this always sell purity to guys, and they size you up immediately and know if you're sexually experienced, and the less experienced you are, the more they sell that purity, man. So the thing is that the only way you're going to be able to move in a modern sexual marketplace where women are more promiscuous than men nowadays is you need to get your lay count up. I say personally, 50, 35 years old, making $100,000 a year, 6 months of expenditures, and then being in shape. And the reason why I say this, to bring this all full circle, guys, is when you have these things in place, you're going to be what I call entry-level high-value male, okay? And when you're an entry-level high-value male, guess what happens? When you tell a chick, hey, you're not going to the club, or if you do, we're done, she's going to actually what? Respect that. And she's going to be scared to lose you because you are now an anomaly compared to most men in the West. So the only way really to like keep chicks in check is they need to know that they're replaceable. When her fear of losing you overrides her fun with her friends, that's when you're going to win. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is let her know, number 1, she's replaceable. Number 2, you're not. So that's how guys can win in the marketplace today, where women have all the options and all the leverage. You have to self-improve, become high value, become the prize. Next thing you know, she's going to start listening to you and, more importantly, defer to your authority. So that's my little take on it.
All of this is starting to sound familiar, I hope, guys. Only been mentioning it for a few years now. Rollo, devil's advocate, throw it at us.
Sure. Up to this point, we've been talking about like what to do before you get into a relationship, not what you do once you are in that relationship. So It's great. Yeah. Be a high value man, be an authentic. I mean, it helps to be like the guy that you are selling yourself as when you're dating. Sure. Absolutely. It's important to vet women. We got that. We've done dozens of shows about that. I think that just as a quick aside, one thing that I don't think that we think about too much is guys need to abandon and kill off the beta. They need to kill off that blue pill mentality before they get into before they even consider getting into a relationship. And that's where, like, what Myron was saying a minute ago, and I've said this before, is that most guys, when they learn game, they learn it because they want to get their dream girl. Because they're uncomfortable with spinning plates. They're uncomfortable with dating non-exclusively. They're in a scarcity mentality mode. 85% of guys, the guys that we always say, the 80-20 rule, most guys are beta. They are brought up as beta. They are conditioned by the blue pill. They have to be, because they have to be serviceable at the right time, at the right moment, at the right time when women have a need and a utility for them. And usually that's when women are sort of on the decline of their sexual market value themselves. Like I said, the epiphany phase. But what we have, and we have had for at least the last 4 generations of men, is this conditioning, which is what we call the blue pill, to make those guys serviceable and to fit them into that slot when women have a need for them. And again, this is a result of a masculinization of women and a feminization of men. Even prior to the sexual revolution, 80% of guys were still kind of low value men. Times were different then. You could be a good provider, you could get a good job, and you could still be marriageable in that respect. Today, that's out the window. So you've got to prepare for that. But what most guys don't understand is that you were brought up to be a beta. You were brought up and raised and acculturated by now a global society or global village that has put you in this mindset that it's wrong for you to spin plates, that is wrong for you to have options, that any time you get into a situation of even semi-monogamy, serial monogamy, it's usually because you feel that anything else is wrong, that you shouldn't be doing those things. And if I did that, I can't begin to tell you how many times in the last 20 years I've had guys tell me, I could never do that. I'm a one-woman kind of guy, Rolo. If I did that, if I spun plates, she would leave me. I'd lose the best thing I ever got. And the reason why you think in those terms is because first of all, you're in a state of scarcity already, because most likely you're one of the 85% of guys. And then to compound that, you've probably been brought up in a blue pill conditioning that has reinforced that for you, so that you are the good, dependable, loyal guy who has built up this ideal that when you finally get to the point where women like come to their senses and you hit pay dirt, and all your perseverance and all of your investment in monogamy, in serial monogamy, in your blue pill conditioning, all of that suddenly comes to fruition when the woman is 29 to 31 years old. Maybe she's a single mommy, maybe she's not, but you're still right there in the right place at the right time. And it's not because, fate smiled upon you or God ordained this one girl for you. It's because you have been conditioned to be in that spot at that time. And you're thankful to the heavens above that you even got a girlfriend that wants to get with you. Well, that situation is becoming more and more rare as social media expands, as Instagram becomes sort of like everything that Myron has said. Like this is the realities of the new sexual marketplace. All of that is sort of hit the reset button, and guys are like, they don't know what to do with themselves. But I think one of the first things that guys need to do, if you want to have a successful long-term relationship, maybe that's a religious conviction, maybe that's just like, hey, Rolo, I really want to settle down because I want to have kids. Okay, but you need to be that guy. You need to be the guy who is not in a scarcity mode. You need to be the guy who has abandoned his blue pill ideals and is the guy who controls the frame. And you need to do so unapologetically, because when you get to that point, when you get to 30, 33 years old and the woman is 28, 29, she's like Tommy Lahren and she's got a freaking attitude like Tommy Lahren, you need to be the guy to pull the plug on that and do what's right for you, not what's right for her, because she is on the decline. She is on the descent of her sexual market value, and you are on, hopefully, if you've done everything, you've maximized your potential, you're on your ascent during that time. That's why I keep saying, guys at 35, 36, 37 years old, if you're not hitting your prime years right there, then you need to go back to the start and try something else. But most guys, the reason why they get into really bad relationships, the reason why the divorce rate is what it is, the marriage rate gets pushed back even further. For men, it's like 29. For women, it's 28, maybe even 30 by now. We've pushed the rate or the incidence of first marriage further and further into our 30s right now. The reason for that is not because guys want to be adolescents. It's not because guys want to, even guys who don't want to get married. It's because those are the realities of the sexual marketplace right now. It's not because of your choice. It's because women just don't want to have anything to do with you, and men don't want to have anything to do with women because they don't want to run through girl, and she doesn't want a guy who's economically unattractive or is a guy who just doesn't get it. But the reality is that the guys who are getting into relationships right now, who are serial monogamists, who find themselves, oh man, I can't believe I found this one great girl. They're all into self-deprecation, and they think that that's their form of game. The reason why they get into these bad relationships is because they think they have to, because they have been what I've termed this in the past. They are pre-whipped. They're already whipped by a girl they haven't even met yet, because they believe that the expectation of them by the blue pill that's conditioned them for this, they believe that when they get into that relationship, it's going to be hard work. Relationships take effort, and I got to really freshen it up. And it's this qualification that not only do they have when they're single, now that they're married, it's this constant qualification, and you better do it right. And you better do these things right, and you better make her feel special, and you better not make her think that there's another girl that wants to get with you. That's why when we talk about dread, it's such a foreign, like alien thought to guys to actually go with it. Because for most guys, most beta guys, they don't want their wives or their girlfriends to think that they're flirting with the waitress or whatever. And rather than going with that and having, maybe, dealing with the fallout from the woman, but at least it's an indication of pre-selection that works for you. Guys who aren't in that mentality, they're thinking, oh, wait, baby, you're the only girl for me. And they'll suck up to her, or they'll placate to her because they want to make her feel secure. You're the only girl for me. Don't worry about it, because they're worried about that loss. And the reason where that comes from is not from within marriage. It comes prior to that. It's your upbringing, it's your thinking, it's your serial monogamy. It's trying to prove yourself as that unique guy amongst all these other guys. Because to the blue pill beta mindset, everybody's a player. Everybody's screwing these girls. Everybody, and maybe they're right, because the girls that they're going for are the players, but not the 80%, not the vast majority of guys. The vast majority of guys are guys who want to prove themselves as being a good husband and a good match and a good catch. Right. And so when they get into those relationships, now they don't understand how to turn their wives on whatsoever. And certainly not as much as the guys who turned her on in her college years when she was at her sexual market value peak. But what they don't understand is that when they get into these relationships, women's sexual market value changes. It's on the decline, and they're lucky to have you. But they will never think that, because they've been preconditioned from their earliest childhood to just thank their lucky stars, to say, oh, I got lucky, I got fortunate, it's divine intervention, whatever it is, that I'm even with this person. And so it's this constant qualification, even when that woman's value is next to nothing, certainly nothing as what it used to be when she was in her 20s, when she was in her mid-20s.
Facts. Go ahead, Rich. Go ahead.
Hang on a sec. I want to get these super chats because they've been piling up. Captain Crunch says, X recently HMU. After a few days of talking, she said she wasn't attracted to me like she was when she first met. But at the same time, she said she still loved me and needed time to grow.
I love you, but I'm not in love with you. That's
a
classic.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Joe says, Rollo, any chance we can get a Rational Male episode on the reconstruction? I think you've noted it.
Noted.
Yeah. Noted. Okay. Talja says, thank you for the helpful talk. Could you please give suggestions on what are most helpful things for women to do? Be that a man LTR goes well.
Understand value.
Yeah, respecting and understanding your value as a guy is huge.
Unapologetically, even if it sounds like you're conceited, and it will. It's a guy, like I was saying, the guys who
I would say precisely because you are.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with that, because her value declines, yours increases. She's lucky to have you. That's I hate it. I absolutely hate it when I hear, like, especially from like evangelical Christians, when they're introducing their wives and they default self-deprecation. I can't believe a girl like her. It must be God thing, because I can't believe a girl like her would actually have anything to do with a schmuck like me. That's usually the introduction right there, because he thinks that he makes himself less, he makes her more, and she'll appreciate him for that. And meanwhile, the woman's like, she's like cringing because
that's all of track on Twitter, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I can't believe and the reason why they do that is because they're in scarcity mode, because they're primed already before they get into the relationship to do that, because they think that it's always qualification. It's always an endless qualification. When in fact, when that guy gets to be 36 and he made partner in the law team, or he's maximized his potential, she should be the one who's thanking her lucky stars that she's with that guy, because guess what? The things that made her attractive and arousing and everything in her 20s, those decline.
Start getting comfortable when you're in social environments and people start deferring to your wife or your girlfriend as, "Oh, Rich, you're lucky to have her." You have to make sure that there's a cheeky response that comes back, something along the line of, "No, she's lucky to have me, pal."
Fact, man. And I want to say this real fast, because when Rollo was speaking there, I was thinking in my head, I got to say this. I want everyone watching this broadcast right now to understand that chivalry is dead. And you guys got to stop operating under that mantra of, "Oh, I'm going to do what's right." Because let me tell you guys something, how women approach the marketplace. Men do what's right when it comes to dating, right? "Oh, I can't flake. Let me make sure I pay. Let me make sure I'm here, etc., etc." Women do what's right for them. And you guys got to understand that women treat men as expendable commodities. They're never going to tell you it, but they're going to act on it. This is why they leave you unseen. This is why they don't respond to your texts. This is why they don't answer your phone calls. This is why they flake on dates, etc. If you ask any guy that's dating in 2020, especially young millennial women, the flake rate is ridiculous. And the reason why is because women have more options than they ever had before. Now, I want to clarify, that doesn't necessarily mean they like their options. But the thing is this, when they know they have them, it's going to make them move a certain way where they're not going to respect the majority of men. So the only way you're going to combat that in 2020 is you need to treat women the same way they treat men. And you also have to treat them expendable. And something magical happens when you do that. When you treat women as expendable commodities, guess what? All of a sudden, whoa, this guy's different. He doesn't really care what I think or what I say or how I act. He's different, because a lot of guys are outcome dependent, and I need guys to start becoming outcome independent, because women really don't care. If you flake on a chick, she ain't gonna really get that mad. She's like, "Oh, well, okay, we can reschedule," because she knows she has a Rolodex of new options. So guys need to get rid of this chivalry thing. And the reason why I want to say this is because when you play by the chivalry, "I'm a nice guy," you're playing by a handbook that's outdated about 100 years. Because guess what, guys? Feminism is here. Egalitarian relationships are here. And women don't play by that rule book anymore. Quite frankly, women look at you as an equal. And what does chivalry do? Chivalry plays by a rule book of females acting with traditional traits and men having traditional masculine traits. Unfortunately, when you play the chivalry game, you're adhering to that rule book while she's not adhering to her rule book. And guess who has an inherent disadvantage now in the sexual marketplace? Men, because they think they need to be gentlemen. And quite frankly, guys, I need you guys to become savages the same way women are. It's just that they don't overtly tell you what they're doing. And actually, society rewards them for spinning plays. They're doing all the things we're telling you guys to do. It's just that it's kind of kept on the low.
True.
I feel
Exactly.
like Rollo's making a face right now, like he has thoughts on what Myron just said, and I want to hear him chime in.
I'm done.
Because I saw the gear wheels moving there.
I've written enough about. I whenever I hear the word chivalry, I kind of cringe, because and this is not anything about Myron. It's just that I think a lot of people, when they use the term chivalry, they're using what I call old order thinking, and chivalry is not what you think it is. I have a whole there's a whole subsection of book 4 that's dedicated to chivalry versus courtly love versus the romantic ideal. What we commonly think of as chivalry, open the girl's door and do everything for her, and my lady's honor and LARPing and all this other crap that we see in movies and stuff like that. All of that is the romantic ideal. That is not chivalry. Chivalry is was a code of ethics that was amongst men that had nothing to do with women until women decided to insert themselves into the chivalric code by saying, oh yeah, and defend women's honor and oppression anywhere, and just decided to sort of commandeer that code so that they could have control over men, kind of like how they do it today. So they use old order thinking and to get men to be responsible for women and to defend women and to protect women, because men have an innate protector dynamic over women. But they'll use things like, oh, was chivalry dead? And of course the joke is, yeah, of course, and women and feminists killed it, blah, 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 with equality. Okay, yeah, but what they're talking about is not chivalry. They're talking about the romantic ideal. And the romantic ideal is do everything for women. Prioritize women's imperatives, the feminine imperative, before anything else that there is. So pay for a date, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. Everything that we would consider chivalry is really it comes from courtly love, and it comes from the romantic ideal.
Let me put the super chat to Ryan. Nurseman says, should men when wanting an LTR put most of assets in an irrevocable trust these days?
When I hear men talk about wanting an LTR, how do I get a girlfriend? I think of a girl asking, how do I get laid? And I mean this with all due sincerity. That's not your damn job. It's not your job. Here, I'll tell you right now. Everybody I know who has a good relationship that's lasted long pursued their women for sex. Their women tried to latch onto them, doing the best they could. Now, some of the guys, they just picked a girl who put out and that was good enough. Other guys, they expected more from that. Wants this girl to be a good earner. If you want to keep me around, you need to be a financial net benefit. My girl can drywall and tile the floors. Perfect. I didn't want a relationship. They didn't want nobody wanted a relationship. The girl wants the relationship, and so the relationship happens. It's like, I'm annoyed that everybody keeps saying you don't want a girlfriend, you don't want a family. What it is you don't want to be alone. And you got to address that core issue before you even consider accepting somebody's crying request to put you in a relationship. And I'll tell you right now, if they haven't cried and give like the "where are we" speech, then yeah, it's not girlfriend material anyway. And I'm saying this from experience. This is how it's happened for me. And then, so the irrevocable trust, to that specific question,
yeah,
there's been some theory about it. It seems to make sense. Unfortunately, it doesn't have enough time in the field yet that we've had any challenges to court to know how useful it is. So not enough data is the best answer I can give you.
Protect your assets if you're going to live in a way that would allow the state to divide your assets. It just boils down to that. Talk to a family lawyer where you live. You've been spinning plates. The cream has risen to the top. You've decided to choose one. Maybe you want to have kids. I don't know what crazy ideas are going through your mind, but if you're worth considerably more than her, you need to make sure that you protect that. Talk to a family lawyer about the best way to go about doing that where you live. Let me keep moving through these super chats because there's like 3 more and then we'll keep going. Simplefly says, can we hear about the panel's take on 30 plus years of research of the 4 horsemen, which destroys LTRs, done by Dr. John Gottman and his team? Troy, I saw you in the chat. I don't know if you're there right now, if you stepped away, but who wants to chime in on that?
Gottman's an asshole.
All right, why? Tell us why.
What's you referring to, 4 horsemen? I'm not familiar with
Gottman, the Gottman method of relationship counseling. I'm sure there's 3 other douchebags that do the same thing he does.
Troy said here in the private, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. I'm not familiar with this guy or what he's talking about. So
when you think of marriage counselor, he's the guy who like trains them. He's the model.
Okay, so he's a putz. So let's just skip that then.
Yeah, here's the thing: negotiated desire. That's all that has to be said on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, look at marriage counseling today and the divorce rates and how they've gone up together. Right? If marriage counseling was a recipe for success, we would have less divorces and more successful relationships. We don't. We have more people going to counseling, and then of course more people divorcing. They go hand in hand. And the reason why, and this is something I had been in a doctorate program I'm not going back to, but for this reason, academia doesn't understand or respect the differences between men and women. You're indoctrinated with feminist values through academia. They're a little bit more liberal, leftist, and feminism gets indoctrinated into that. And there's all kinds of ideas of men and women being the same, this blank slate equalism and all this stuff. And that filters into marriage counseling and those methods. And so, I mean, it's always going to be from a feminine perspective, and it's always going to be what can the guy do to qualify to the woman. It's always going to be this idea that men and women are the same. If you start from those ideas, you're going to fail. That woman is not going to be attracted. This guy, and this is the sad part, these guys go to counseling, minus there's some counselors that are a little bit rogue and they don't follow the party line, and they do a good job, you know. So I'm not saying everyone, but the majority of marriage counselors, psychologist counselors, even some of the social workers that do counseling, you go to them and the guy's going to do, if he's, you know, he will probably try to do everything he is told. He will do everything right. She will be unattracted to him, unaroused by him, more so than when they started. And then the relationship's going to go or break up because he'll be qualifying to her, and it's going to send a message to her hindbrain that she is better than him and that she is of higher genetic quality. As we know from hypergamy, that's not going to work. And then it just fails. So whenever somebody asks about Gottman or any of these other, you know, pioneers of marital counseling, you know, with some of these methods, I just look at it and I just have to shake my head. Because behind these things, although there's maybe some principles that are good in there, behind it is always approaching it from a feminine imperative where a man qualifies to a woman, she becomes unattracted, and the relationship blows up anyway. So that's
all right.
That's
so
that.
Rolla, we got this question that comes in every freaking week. Spend 20 seconds on it. What's the most effective way to unplug the fellow man from the matrix? Try to keep your super chats on the topic today, guys, please.
Sure. The most effective way is wait for a trauma. You want honestly wait for a trauma, wait for a crisis. That's the most effective way. The second most effective way is to ask pertinent questions and wait for your moments. Like say, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And do so from sort of an inquisitive position rather than a I'm telling you how things are kind of thing. Don't just hand them my book and go, oh, well, Romo said this is the right way to do it. No, have a discussion. Say, do you think this is the right way to do it? That's the second most effective way. But honestly, and I hate to be this is the brutal, honest truth, is the easiest way to unplug guys is to wait until they're in a crisis mode.
Trauma is always the best way. Amar says, I started to get professional assignments with a 23-year-old girl. Never told my LTR, but somehow she picked, and everyday fights stopped largely. Not sure.
Professional assignments.
Dread is what he's talking about.
Okay. Different behaviors as a result of that. Because when you have other women in your rotation, you act differently. When you have one woman that is the only focus, when you are, what is a strategic pluralism theory, when you're putting all of your reproductive effort into one woman, you're acting differently than you would if you already have other options.
Even if you're not banging them.
On that, they are sensitive. They understand communications way better than you do.
Cal just said, I am a woman, true, respect is the key. Besides, I think trust and honesty. I was asking because I'm afraid that I don't see the mistakes I might do. I don't want to be sorry when it's too late.
The only mistake you can make is either spending about a house and home or jumping on a different dick. You'll be fine. The rest is negotiable.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Interesting. You're not wrong, but I always find it interesting when there's women watching our stuff. They always like to be a fly in the wall. J-Lo says, do you have any advice for stop being so nervous around women I think this is because I view them superior to me and neediness mentality programmed into me. How do I break this more dominant? You obviously don't have a lot of experience if that's how you're feeling right now. It's just get some experience under your belt. Does anybody else want to chime in on that?
Fake it to make it. Yeah. I mean, there's no real easy way around this one, unfortunately, other than putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable and expanding your comfort zone. So fake it to make it at first. Go out there, get shot down, whatever.
Gaming.
You'll start to build.
Do not get into a relationship with any woman unless you've got a notch count going on, because guys like you end up in a really bad position of one-itis at some point, and then you wonder, well, all this red pill stuff must be lies. It doesn't work. It's like, no, dude, you didn't start from mental point of origin at the entrance. Eddie Daniel says, what do you guys think of a man making a woman his workout partner in the no, dude, you don't work out with chicks. Here, Martin, this is yours.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, if your girl works out too, that's one thing. But like, man, like the thing is this, like it's not, the gym should be for you, right? And if she kind of wants to join in and like participate every now and then and you're helping her get in shape, that's one thing. But you got to like kind of cut her off at some point. And the thing too is that that's going to build anxiety because she knows there's other attractive women at the gym. So it's actually going to help you a bit with making her uncomfortable. And I always say it, man, I hate to say it, but I need you guys to like really internalize this. Never, shout out to Kevin Samuels. He talked about this. Never deny a woman the luxury of being uncomfortable dealing with you. And the reason why is because she's going to respect dealing with you more and more. And being in shape, in a better shape than her, is a very honest indicator that she's replaceable. So if you are going to work out with her, bring her maybe once or twice. Let her, especially if you're in good shape, let the other girls, because the other girls are going to check you out when they see you with a girl. She's going to see that. It's going to cause a little bit of that anxiety. And then you just tell her, okay, you can't come with me to the gym the other days. Boom. She's going to be, wondering well, what's he doing? Is he bringing him in the gym? So that's how you approach that. But you can't bring her with you all the time. You know what I'm saying? Don't do that.
You'll never have a good workout working out with a chick. It's just like you'll never push as hard as you would by yourself.
There's a reason why, and you guys probably know this, and I'm sure Myron as a personal trainer has experienced this firsthand, is what's the first thing women do when they decide they want to get out of a relationship or they want to get out of a marriage? 8 months prior to filing papers, what is the first thing they do?
Yeah, they hit
the gym and book that titty job.
And so when you do that as a guy and you just sort of take it upon yourself to like get back in and like hit it, maybe you already went to the gym or you're hitting it harder, or maybe you've never went to the gym and you decided to start going. That's when women go, why is he doing like that? It creates, it stokes imagination is what it does. And also if you're starting to look better and women are starting to notice you, what does that do? It stokes competition anxiety. It stokes soft dread.
Yeah. Do not work out with chicks. Do not spar with chicks at a dojo. Work out by yourself.
Spar with them at home. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. If you got something here, I got throw in the screen. You need to
I wanted to get there. This is a quote from Dr. Jordan Peterson. He said, and this is a prime example of what not to do in a relationship. But it illustrates a few points I wanted to make. It says you want something like this is what his advice was. He's given a lot of advice about like what to look for in a girl, right? This is the man who talks about how he fell in love with his wife when he was 7 years old and went through this sort of, has been very blue pill pretty much his entire life. So here's what he says. He says, you want someone to contend with because you learn through that wrestling. You learn where you're an idiot and where you should stop being an idiot and vice versa. Okay, so first of all, that's self-deprecation right there. It's like, I'm an idiot and I need a wife to help me save me from myself. This is the plot of every single stupid, inane, sitcom since Dr. Huxtable, right? Since 1985. Okay. This is the plot from Everybody Loves Raymond. That's what this is. Save me from myself, mommy. I need you. I'm an idiot. I'm a man and I need a woman to tell me that I'm an idiot. So that's the spiritual aspect of marriage. The fact that you have to contend with someone under all that sort. Do you think that the patriarchs of old really said, I want to contend with someone. I really want a wife to contend with. Under all that sort of circumstance, it's a manner of promoting psychological or spiritual growth. Now, this is where you're going to get into sort of the woo-woo magical thinking side of things, because a lot of guys, when they get into like really right now, marriage, as we've been illustrating throughout this podcast, marriage is for elite men, right? You have to have the 666, right? 6 foot tall, 6-pack abs, 6-figure income. You've got it, and that's just entry level, right? Just what was Myron just saying? That's entry level. That's not even elite. So really what and I'm quoting Dalrock here, is marriage has become an institution not only of like upper middle class people with college degrees, but it's also elite in the sense that you have to be one of these guys to earn the honor of being marriageable, of being economically attractive, so that you can get into the perfect relationship, which is contending with a woman so she can tell you when you're an idiot. And what I wanted to point out in all of this is that when you see stuff like this, these are people who are these are old order thinkers. And so guys will say, well, I don't want a girl that's like stupid, like Troy was saying. I don't want to go with a PhD student, but I don't necessarily want to get with somebody who is, functionally retarded. But it's like, that's the only thing, because we live in the age of emotion and it's all binary extremes. So if she's not a fucking doctoral candidate for like astrophysics, She's this idiot barista who had never finished high school. Those are the only two choices.
First off, baristas are college grads.
I have really great conversations with my wife. Did she ever go to, to med school or to? No, she didn't. Right. And I can still relate with her. And, we have had a very good relationship for the last 24 years. Does she correct me? No, she doesn't correct me. If anything, you know what you want in a woman? You want a woman who has insight, who can check herself, who knows when she's wrong and is willing to admit it. That's what I get into it with guys on Twitter all the time, because they'll say women never apologize. And they're right. They don't. So when they do, it's this rare occasion. They never give compliments and they never apologize for anything, because we live in an age where women are blameless. They're sinless. They don't do anything wrong. Only men do things wrong. How do we know that? Well, since the mid-'80s, we've been taught that men are either abusers or they're ridiculous buffoons they're Homer Simpsons, or they're rapists or potential rapists. Those are the three choices you have when you pick a man, according to popular consciousness today in Western societies. So when we say, well, men are flawed, well, they can be flawed in those three ways. How can we make them? Men, you need to do better. And if your marriage is based on you need to keep doing better, you need to make more, you need to do this, you don't have the frame. She has the frame, and she will continue to have that frame so long as that's what's being fed to her, and that's what you expect from yourself. Because most guys, when they get into marriages, they expect to get into that marriage and think that, no, it's an equal partnership. It's equal. We're even Stevens right now. No, women don't want an equal. They can't look up to a man who is their equal. They want somebody who's better than. It's the Patrice O'Neill thing, right? You want a man who's smarter than you, bigger than you, more violent than you, makes more money than you, has broader shoulders than you, all these things, and you want him to think that he's your equal. No, correct. That's not how that works. And when you see something like, what was it, Gottlieb or Jordan Peterson here, they're basing their suggestions on old order thinking. Right. That's what this is.
It's just made up stuff. We got like 10 minutes left here, guys. I want to kind of throw Ryan here on the soapbox, because you're the LTR dude, and there's always like the question from guys watching shows like this. I'm in a long-term relationship. I'm married. Desire's obviously tanked. The title of this is How to Maintain Genuine Desire. What do guys do in scenarios where they start to notice that genuine desire has eroded? And what can they do to improve that as they're already in an existing relationship? Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, the beauty of a relationship is it should not be effort. If it's effort, if you're putting effort into the relationship, you've already failed. So your purpose then is to understand what is it that failed about it. You do a quick autopsy on yourself, and it's usually because you have a combination of being less attractive and being more unattractive. So that's where the purpose of dread comes in. And when we say failing relationships, we always mean sexually. No guy has ever said, my relationships failed for any other reason. So you have to make yourself attractive. First thing, you clean up your own house or clean your own room. We'll do some Peterson things here. That's where you're working out to get in shape. You don't want to get swole, be like a giant bodybuilder type, but you need to get in better shape than the general area of guys around you. You want to start learning strong boundaries, because just being able to say no and not feel guilty is such a common concept. They wrote a book about the damn thing. When I say no, I feel guilty. You learn to start establishing your own frame, and that's where things like nice guy comes in. It turns out a lot of guys, like I said before, you don't want to be in a relationship. You just don't want to be alone. And so there's some usually childhood trauma or failed parenting strategies that get a guy to that point. You address those things. And so while you're getting your physical stuff out of in order, you're building up your style, you're doing your hair, you stop being such a nice guy in the specific ways that it refers to. You start being more assertive in the when I say no, I feel guilty. Practical Female Psychology, another good book. Then you start to understand your role as a man in the relationship. And everybody's saying the same thing here. You need to be above your girl, because the relationship is her job. So why would she sign on for a relationship where she has to drag you along kicking and screaming? No, she wants somebody better than to fight for. Then once you get into that position, you find out which one of the three, they call it the three drunken captains you are. Either you have a first officer, that's the wife, the first officer who begrudgingly takes control. In that case, once you start upping your value and making yourself worth a damn, she hops right back in the line. Awesome. Works perfectly. The second scenario is the one with the constant complaining passenger, which is one where she can't let go of her need to control. Then you'll get into a situation called the main event if it reaches that good point. Put that aside for now. The third one is a girl who never wanted a captain. They just wanted somebody like a pushover. A lot of girls have daddy issues. Their dad was too authoritative, so like a guy they can push around. That's what you'd think of when you think of like the feminist ball buster. Those ones, your whole purpose of building value is to realize that you have value. This chick is useless as tits on a unicorn to you. And so you essentially like, all right, I'm done. You checked out. You're done. You're off. You're gone. You're never going to make this mistake with another girl in your life. Now, none of this stuff guarantees it'll fix. That's why the main event is there. The main event is one of those things. If you got a stubborn woman and all this work you've been doing to build your attractiveness and stop being unattractive, she's still fighting you every step of the way. There's going to be a point where it looks like you're ready to move on. And it's not you hitting on the waitress. It's the waitress hitting on you, or, you know, her friends at a party asking you, hey, are you in a relationship right now? And a girl overhearing this stuff when they realize, oh my God, because they didn't see your slow progression. They just see that same schlub that she didn't want to have sex with 6 months ago. Sometimes that snaps a girl out of it and they have what's called a main event. Basically, it's the mother of all comfort test where they're like, I don't know how I fit into your new life. And you know it's a sense of desperation because you're going to get snot bubbles and you're going to get direct communication. The two things that the girls hate doing in front of you. Now, in that point, maybe you still don't want her and you're like, no, I'm moving on. Maybe you're like, all right, so here's how it works from here moving forward. But it's a long process. And the most important part that I'll tell you when you're going through it is you realize it has nothing to do with her. Dread is not about winning a woman back. Dread is not about building a better mousetrap. It's not about making yourself more attractive for her. It's just realizing that your relationship involved so many screw-ups that you need to fix some fundamental parts about who you are to put yourself in a position where you can make the choice on who gets to stay and who gets to leave in your life. And that's the core of it. So I hope that got a sufficient answer to it. I could talk about it for hours, so I try to keep it as concise as possible. Very simplified, but I hope that gives you enough to work with here.
That was excellent.
We've got 5 minutes left, guys. Closing thoughts. Does anybody want to chime in?
My thing, man, is you basically, guys, just to sum up what Rollo and Ryan and everybody else were saying to Troy and Paul and Rich, your girl, fundamentally, you guys got to understand this. Women are fundamentally incapable of leading a man within the confinements of a romantic relationship. So the only way it's going to work is you're going to have to be in the driver's seat in all aspects of the relationship. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by being higher value than her. Women will sit there and tell you we're equal and all this other BS. But I'll tell you guys this right now. Someone breaks into the house, like, she's going to look to you to like put your life on a line to protect her. So make sure the girl is worth protecting and she needs to follow what you do. If the chicks are out here arguing with you, all this other stuff, you don't sit there and I always say it. Just remember this. Don't negotiate with terrorists. Oh, you want to argue? Okay, cool. I was waiting for this. Now I'm going to call this other chick. I've done it before, guys, where I've called other women in front of girls. I've literally sent her videos of me getting with another girl. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm literally savage with these chicks because that's the mindset you have to adopt with women in 2020, man. They literally laugh at guys in front of me all the time about this guy's a simp, whatever. Girls know this terminology, and they will use you and laugh at you with the other guy. So you need to adapt their savage mindset and apply it back to them because it's a refreshing and stark reminder that they're replaceable. And guess what, man? Women love being uncomfortable in relationships with men because it's a rare feeling, man. And it only comes from you keeping your value high and letting her know that she's, bitch, don't get too comfortable.
Don't get, sorry, man, just one quick thought. Guys, a lot of guys will go and start to learn game just to get the girl, right? To go and get the girlfriend or like the wife or whatever. That's not what you should be using it for. You should be using it to improve yourself, to increase your options, improve available opportunities for you so you have a better experience and that you're not relying on just that one chick to solve your life problems. No woman should be solving any of your problems, dudes.
Well, why would you learn to cook and then just make one steak and that's
Right.
it? You know, like you want to carry on. You want to have lots of steaks. You want to have a few dirty hamburgers as well. Do you know what I mean? You want to have a variety of different dishes. But I just wanted to make the point after. Absolutely. Extra cheese. I just wanted to make the point after Myron spoke, though. like I said earlier, you do have it within your control to put off for as long as possible settling down into domesticity with a woman. You can absolutely do that. You know, for a year, a couple of years, you know, just keep things casual. You'll hold the frame in the relationship more easily for a lot longer, and you'll maintain urgent desire in the relationship for a lot longer if you do that. Don't feel that you have to fold and get into some domestic setup in the first couple of months. You really, really don't. And it's not a good thing to do.
Domesticity, is that the right? Is the word you're using? It's a good word.
Domesticity, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good word, man. I just want to yes, I'm sorry. New words for me. So I want to just direct. I'm going to direct you guys a little bit. It's because it's free. It's on my channel. I did a 5-part series on frame control. So you might want to check that out. When you get into an LTR, you really don't have to fall into domesticity, even though that's normal social or what happens. That doesn't happen to me because of how the frame that I maintain in the relationship. And it's not just because I have magic powers. I don't even know the word domesticity, so I'm kind of dumb. So if I can do it, you guys,
you need a woman to correct you.
I need somebody. Yeah, I need my better half
with you.
right. She's so smart. But yeah, and so you don't have to fall into that. I mean, I have an LTR that I cohabitate with, and I don't experience the things that most guys report with the decline of sex, a lot of the testing, the kind of lukewarm, relationship that people fall into when they get married or when they start cohabitating. That's not really what happens to me at all. There's a number of reasons for that, but we're out of time. So besides getting that foundational material here from Ryan and Rollo, I do got that 5-part series. It's free, and just search it up on my channel. And it's something that'll give you a framework of how to pull a girl into your frame and maintain that at a very high level, which it really is a requirement now in the global sexual marketplace if you want this stuff to work. So.
All right. So with that being said, that's where Paul's at. Check out that series that he's done. Let's just go around the rest of the table and let guys know where they can find you this week and what you're up to.
I will be on my channel tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I was not on Wednesday, but you could have. Actually, I pushed this a little bit more. I did the Charlie and Ben podcast about now 2 weeks ago, and they've kind of diced it up like sections of it. There's one big podcast, and then there's like little sort of sub clips, I guess is what they've been. They kind of make me look like angry old man in the thumbnails, but it's really good stuff. So I would say go check that out. In the meantime, I am really focused on book 4 right now, almost there. I'm like matter of days, let's just say. And so like I'm really making a really sort of big one last push on this thing because I'm doing the layout and everything else. So just to let people know where I'm at as far as that project is concerned. And then after that, I will probably be doing I'm going to edit book 1 for syntax and grammar and yes, font size. Thank you very much. And yes, I also did. I saw in the chat today. Are you going to release it in Portuguese? I have lots of people who want to translate right now. I have one guy in Germany who's already translated it into German right now. I'm going to probably be working with this guy with a contract pretty soon. So German will probably be the next language that the first book is in. It is still the Bible of the Manosphere. Go check it out. It's on Amazon.com. I have 3 books, and soon we'll have 4. So there you go.
All right, Ryan, what's shaking with you, man?
For me, easy enough. I got a little Christmas gift for the guys who came to Rule Zero Live. It just came in now. You could probably see it right there. Special edition of the book. There's only 15 copies out there. A great artist on Twitter. You guys should follow him. Garage. I've retweeted him a bunch. I'll probably do it again after the show here. But again, a little thank you. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you got some value from it. Here's a little keepsake. Put it on your coffee table. He's a great artist. Follow him around. He's got some good work. And then beyond that, I am taking it easy to the end of Christmas. I'm working on my investments. I'm keeping the videos coming. A lot more foundational stuff. I'm finding a lot of shrinks coming out the woodwork to take pot shots at us. So I'm like, what a perfect opportunity to correct some information. So go on, check it out. And then beyond that, enjoy your Christmas.
All right, Troy, what are you up to this week? Muted.
Sorry, man. So this week I'm going to be doing CAD Live on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as usual. Monday, though, is going to be a little bit early. I'm going to be going live at 9 a.m. EST on Monday on my channel. So search for Troy Francis on YouTube and you'll find my channel. And then I'm going to be on James Tusk's channel later on at 12 a.m. EST or thereabouts, discussing day game, etc., etc. So it's going to be a fun-packed week. But yeah, 9 a.m. on Monday for CAD Live this week. So check me out on YouTube.
All right. And Myron.
Hey, what up, guys? Myron Gaines. As you guys know, I'm here in Miami, Florida. Get on my YouTube, Unplugged Lifestyle, where I talk fitness and I talk game, how to deal with girls in a contemporary marketplace. Obviously, in one of the hardest marketplaces, Miami, Florida. So we give you guys all that information on the channel. And then on patreon.com/freshfit, me and my buddy, Fresh Prince CEO, who's a master with Instagram, basically source all his girls from social media. We teach you guys how to cold approach, run social media game, basically dealing with the marketplace today in the West in a very tough city. So patreon.com/freshfit. My YouTube channel is Unplugged Lifestyle, and we do our Fresh and Fit podcast twice per week. Where we're going to be going in studio next week, guys. So tune in to catch basically how to run game in the United States in tough major cities, man. So thank you so much for having me on.
All right, and just for me, got the Before the Trainwreck series continuing on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. I have a Playing to Win also this week scheduled for Thursday with a guy that runs a very interesting nutraceutical company. So he's going to be sharing some experiences about how he's played to win versus playing not to lose. I got lots of videos in the hopper coming out, and my book is done. We're just getting the cover designed and getting the final elements in, like the outro and the foreword. You can get a copy of the Red Flags list by going here to that URL, and I'll also send you an email when the book's available to purchase. So, guys, appreciate you all watching this today. Yeah, what's up?
Hey, Rich, real quick. Sorry, I got to plug it real fast. Tomorrow at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, I'll be on Sterling Cooper's channel. Probably going to talk about smashing garden tools. It'll be awesome. And
all right,
if you want to, yeah, it's a good one. All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Give us a like and throw us a comment below. We'll see you in the next broadcast. Who's going to host next Saturday?
Ryan's up.
Sweet.
Ryan.
We're going to crush it.
You're
Second
up,
best
so
host on this thing.
More dirty hamburgers.
Dirty hamburgers on Ryan's channel. So that's next Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you guys then.